everyone, it's Bren here and welcome back to my Australian cottage garden. And unfortunately I didn't get to spend as much time out in the garden as I had hoped this week, and that's because my family and I seem to have caught some type of stomach bug which got to us one after the other. So it's been quite a long week for me, and I was pretty happy to be able to grab my phone and come out here and show you around. So we'll be taking a look at the potatoes in the grow bags, how those plants are coming on. I'll give you an update on the common blackbird nest that I have growing in the monstera plant. I'll be picking, or showing you rather, some dried flowers, taking a look at some more seedlings and plants in the ground. But to start off, I want to show you what you just saw at the beginning, all of those ladybugs. Oh my goodness, you are going to love it. So let's get straight into the video. I have something very special to be able to share with you all, and it's what's happening on this plant here, which is called a Queen Anne's lace or an Ammi majus. Let's go and take a look. Yesterday when I came outside to get a little break from my two kids who were homesick from school, I noticed on this plant that it's absolutely covered in ladybugs. Isn't that incredible? I've never seen so many ladybugs in one place before in my whole entire life. I just can't get over it, and I'm so happy to be able to share it with you. This is actually an annual plant, and this one here in particular self-seeded from last year, so I didn't have to do any work at all. It just popped up, and you can see these beneficial insects, the little ladybugs, are really enjoying the pollen-rich flowers of this plant. Definitely a great one to have in your garden, particularly if you're trying to be an organic gardener. I would definitely recommend for you to grow this one. Every springtime when I start seeing these little ladybugs back in my garden, it makes me really happy because I know they'll get the aphids under control. And if any of you are new to gardening, aphids are these little green insects that suck the sap out of plants and can cause a lot of destruction. And these ladybugs, they can eat so many of them, and they can really get that problem under control in your garden. So that's why, one of the reasons why I love these little insects. Over here there's a few things I wanted to show you in this part of the garden. Firstly are my hanging baskets, which you can see there on my repurposed clothes hanger. I had pansies in them during the winter, early spring, and I made a decision to remove them because I'm so mindful of my water usage at the moment, and if I had pansies, or even if I changed them over to petunias, they would require daily watering, which I'm just not really prepared to use my water on these. I'd rather put water elsewhere, like into some of my edible plants. But not to worry, because I can still use this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to plant it up with some succulents, so I'll be doing that now over the next few weeks. Also, I'm quite happy with how my calendula plants down here, you can see I did a bit of a drift of them. They seem to be growing quite well. This is a different variety, I'll put the name up on the screen, and I'm just experimenting to see how they do in the summer heat. Over here I've got a couple of zinnias in this container, so I've stopped with my smaller containers and just chosen some of the larger containers because they are able to retain the water much better. And so I don't have as many of these in the garden now as I did back in autumn, winter and early spring. But the ones that I have chosen, I've picked my plants wisely, and I just thought this would look really nice here, and a nice splash of colour. And then also in this section, you know, ideally I would love to have this, say, full of zinnias or sunflowers, But as I said, I just need to be careful of where I choose to put my plants. So what I did put in here, which I'm quite delighted with, is I put some of my Australian native plants. They're only tiny little tube stocks at the moment. So over there I have an emu bush, and then over here I have, see, I can hardly find it, there it is, a coria. And then in between I have a little tree. Well, it will soon, in the next couple of years, hopefully grow to a nice size. And I have the tag here. I've shown you this before. This is the one that I won in the garden competition, and I popped that in there, and I think that should fill out this space nicely and add a bit of green and attract some more of the native wildlife. I finally harvested all my seeds from my poppies. So I had my salmon peony poppies and the purple poppies here, and I've kept the seed heads, which I'll show you after this. But they were all here. Now last year I had a zucchini, a rondanise, and I had a pumpkin, which was the golden nugget pumpkin just there. But I need to decide what I want to put in there now for this summer. But I was thinking here, I may have mentioned before, I'm going to put some beans growing up along this trellis. And then behind there I have popped in a couple of little sunflower seedlings, the multi-stemmed sunflowers. But I haven't quite decided yet what I'm going to put in the rest of the space. Last year I had this all covered with zinnias, but I may change it up this year. Not sure at the moment. But hopefully by next week I'll have decided what I'm doing and planted it out to show you. In this section, this is where I'm trying to dry some flowers, and I've got all my poppy seed heads. I've gathered them, you can see them here. I've actually taken out a few of the larger ones to take a look at. They're quite enormous. It's incredible how big they get, and I think these are equally as beautiful as the flowers that were on them in springtime. I had some peony poppies and some other purple poppies that I'm not exactly sure the name. But it's great that you can enjoy the flowers, and I'll also have all of these to use in dried flower arrangements inside my house. And I've also got this ornamental grass drying here. So I just grabbed a handful of them. These are called bunny tail grass. And you can probably tell why they've been given that name, with their flower heads looking very similar to bunny tails, and they're so soft to touch. And as mentioned before, it's a really nice sensory plant to have in your garden. And this is a great one to try if you're a beginner gardener, because they are so easy to grow. I bought my seeds from a local shop, the local IGA, Independent Grocers of Australia. For any of you living here in Australia, they seem to sell it there. And yeah, we just sowed the seeds in, it was in autumn time, and they seem to germinate really well, and they're also quite drought tolerant once they're established. So a real winner in an Australian garden. And I have more of these plants in the garden that I need to pick the flowers off, but for the moment I have quite a few to cut off those plants that I have hanging to dry. Here's the monstera plant down by the back door, and this is where I discovered the bird's nest a few weeks ago, and I'm just giving you an update on that. And unfortunately it's not very good news, at least I don't think it is. Let me go and show you. Well, here's the nest. The eggs are still intact, and there's no sign of them hatching. I have seen the common blackbird still in the garden, but I haven't seen any bird come over near the nest. I'm not really sure what's going on. I just don't know. And down over here I have all my potatoes in grow bags. So you can see them there in the green bags. I've got 2 there, and over here I've got another 4 bags, and I'm doing 3 varieties this year. So I'm doing Sebago, Sapphire and Red Norland, and it's time for me this week to fill the bags up with some more compost and manure. This is a really important step to do when you're growing potatoes. because you want to make sure that you cover the stem so that any new tubers that are produced are covered in soil, because if they're not, there is a danger that they can turn green, and if they turn green they're poisonous. So I need to make sure that I top them up this week and keep them well watered as well. Thanks for watching everyone. I hope you enjoyed this week's garden update, and I am sorry I didn't have better news to share with you about the bird's nest. Hopefully I'm just completely wrong and those eggs do hatch, but I will keep you updated. And another thing I wanted to mention was, as you can probably understand, I just didn't get around to putting together enough information to talk about gardening in drought, which I hope to do now over the next few weeks. And it's become even more relevant because it was announced last week that the Sydney area is going to move into level 2 water restrictions, which I'll speak about in a bit more detail next week. But like, one of the major things for me anyway is that I'm not allowed to use a hose anymore. I can only use buckets and watering cans. So I've got a lot to think about with that, and a lot to talk about too. So maybe next week we'll have a chat about that. And I also wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who commented on last week's video with some suggestions for future videos. I really appreciated them, and I wrote them all down in my little journal, and I'll be looking into them in a bit more detail. Well, I think that's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, and of course subscribe as well, because I would really love your support. I'm just a little small gardening channel that's trying to put out a video every week, so every person's support is much appreciated. Okay, I'll see you all next week.